Kara glided through the scarlet jungle with disciplined precision, every movement silent as her four amber eyes fixed on the snapped branch ahead. The human had passed recently, no more than an hour earlier, leaving behind traces that lesser hunters would never notice. But Kara was no ordinary predator. She had tracked prey across 17 different worlds, and among the Val hunting clans her name carried weight and fear. The human was called Tom Blake, according to the colony files she had accessed before beginning the pursuit. A surveyor, an explorer assigned to chart the remote edges of this forgotten jungle planet for a distant Earth corporation. When the Val raiders attacked his camp 7 days earlier, he alone had escaped into the wilderness. The others had not been so fortunate. Some were taken as trophies, others sold into labor markets. Tom Blake had disappeared like mist among the alien trees, and that disappearance fascinated her. Val hunters rarely lost prey, especially fragile humans who usually fell within moments to fang and claw. Kara had immediately volunteered to hunt him herself, dismissing the others who sought the honor. This quarry was hers. For 6 days she followed him through gas-choked swamps and over jagged ravines where winged serpents nested along sheer cliffs. Beneath towering canopies so dense that even twin suns struggled to shine through, the human moved with surprising skill. He walked through streams to hide his scent, climbed high to avoid leaving tracks, and even created false trails that cost her hours. Still, Kara remained confident. She had patience, and the human carried only what supplies he could hold. Hunger and exhaustion always won in the end. On the 7th morning she discovered his newest campsite. It was tucked between the enormous roots of a purple-barked titan. The shelter was rough yet effective. The fire pit had been built to release almost no smoke. Edible plants lay arranged on a flat stone to dry. Kara studied the scene with reluctant admiration. The human had adapted faster than expected. Near a stream, half buried in mud, she found his water container. He would come back for it. They always did. Taking position upwind, Kara let her scaled skin shift color to mirror the purple and green around her. Her breathing slowed until it was nearly non-existent. This was her favorite moment of the hunt, the quiet anticipation. She imagined the fear that would flash in his eyes when he realized escape was over. Perhaps she would let him run briefly before ending it. The thought sent a low purr through her throat as the jungle breathed around her. Hours slipped by in silence. The twin suns climbed higher, filling the jungle with calls from creatures Kara had long learned to ignore. Still, Tom Blake did not return. She remained perfectly still, trusting discipline over impatience. As afternoon deepened, uncertainty crept into her thoughts. Had the human abandoned the camp? Had he somehow sensed her presence? Impossible. She was hidden, invisible, flawless in her concealment. Yet when the suns began to sink, instinct prickled across her scales. Something felt wrong. She finally rose, scanning the forest carefully. Everything appeared unchanged. The camp was untouched. The water container still waited beside the stream. Slowly, Kara turned in a full circle, her 4 eyes dissecting shadows and color. The jungle seemed off, darker, thicker. Only then did she remember the oldest rule of hunting. Never assume you are the only predator. The vines snapped tight around her ankle without warning, jerking her violently off balance. She crashed into the ground, air exploding from her lungs. Another vine lashed around her wrist as she reached for her blade, followed by another that locked around her throat. She fought back with brutal strength, tearing free several strands, but more surged forward. They rose from the soil itself, coiling around her limbs, torso, and snout. In moments, Kara was lifted helplessly above the forest floor, bound within a living cage of vines. Tom Blake stepped into view 20 yards away. He looked thinner than his colony image, his face darkened by twin suns and scratched by thorns. His clothes were ragged, tied together with plant fibers, yet his eyes were sharp and calm, utterly fearless. "Waited long enough?" he asked in rough trade speech. "I was starting to think you wouldn't bite." Kara snarled and strained against the vines. They did not yield. "Slither vines," Tom said, approaching but staying out of reach. "Found them on day 3. Took me 2 days to learn how not to get strangled. They react to chemical signals. You just need the right plants." He raised green-stained fingers. "You knew," Kara hissed. "Since day 2. He nodded. "You're good. Took me a day to realize I was being hunted. After that I stopped running." "You cannot kill me," she said, forcing confidence. "My clan will come." "I don't think so," Tom replied quietly. "I found your ship yesterday. Triggered the distress beacon. Then I set it to self-destruct." Her eyes widened. He continued calmly. They'll assume you died. No one comes back for the dead. The jungle listened as the hunter realized she had become prey. What do you want? Kara demanded, her voice sharp with restrained fear. Tom studied her in silence, his gaze heavy with memories. When he finally spoke, his tone was cold and steady. My team had 17 people. Scientists, engineers, mapmakers. Good people. Your raid killed 9. You sold the rest. I want you to understand what you took from this universe. He stepped closer, close enough that Kara could smell human sweat mixed with crushed leaves and soil. I've been thinking for 7 days, he continued. Thinking about revenge. About justice. About what happens when a prey animal stops running. Then kill me, Kara spat. If you have the courage. That would be easy, Tom said. He reached into a pouch and withdrew a small metallic device. Kara recognized it instantly, a neural suppressor used to subdue dangerous beasts. You're worth more alive. There's a bounty for slavers. And a public trial waiting for you. The kind that makes examples. He pressed the device against her neck. A freezing sensation spread through her nerves. Her muscles failed, strength draining despite her resistance. The vines held firm as darkness crept into her vision. The thing about being prey, Tom said softly, is that you learn what predators ignore. You learn patience. You learn planning. You learn that survival isn't about strength, it's about thinking ahead. The last thing Kara saw was his expression, hardened, exhausted, and utterly without mercy. 6 days later, a human recovery team arrived, responding to the beacon Tom had secretly activated from the wrecked Val ship. They found him waiting at the original camp, thinner, scarred, but alive. Beside him lay the infamous Val Huntress, wrapped in enough slither vines to restrain heavy machinery. The story spread rapidly through human space. A lone surveyor who had survived an alien jungle and captured one of the most feared predators known. A human who reversed the hunt. But Tom never told the full truth. He never spoke of sleepless nights listening for her approach. He never described the fear that drove him deeper into the forest, or the desperation that forced him to gamble everything on a single trap. He never admitted that if it had failed, he would have died unnoticed in the jungle. The Huntress taught him a final lesson. Predator and prey are separated by a thinner line than anyone believes. And sometimes all it takes to cross it is one human, one weakness, and one terrible reason to survive.